Awesome. So I wanted to welcome everyone to this conversation. My name is Cara Milne. For those of you who don't know me, I am currently the chair of disability concerns here in Canada. And after hearing a lot of conversation around wanting to learn and wanting to be current as disability advocates, I had an idea that it would be so great to just have conversations with people that I trust and adore who could enlighten us on some specific topics. And today, you get the honor of hanging out with my friend Debbie, who is an amazing mom, an amazing wife. We go to church together. We are in the same book club and have been connected many times over Zoom. And in all of that, Debbie also has a visual impairment. Debbie is blind. And her and I have been on countless Zoom meetings. And I really thought it would be interesting to learn from her for specifically around Zoom etiquette or Zoom manners when connecting with someone with a visual impairment. A lot of these questions I'm going to ask her, I've never asked her before. So I'm actually really excited about what we're going to learn together. But I wanted Debbie just to also kind of chime in and introduce herself as well. So Debbie, welcome to our conversation.
Thanks, Cara. And thank you for this chance to do this. I'm kind of excited about it. Yeah, I mean, you introduced me well. I am Debbie, and I have been blind / visually impaired since for about, I realized the other day, 30 years now. And I it kind of, my vision receded gradually. So it was a degenerative condition. So I've been at the almost completely blind, like I am now, for about 10 years. And when COVID hit, I had to switch a lot of my activities that I did in person to Zoom. And I've always been quite comfortable with technology. So it was a bit of a learning curve. And then it was sort of a switch over and then doing a totally new thing. And it was kind of fun because everybody else was making it up as we went along too and learning the same stuff. So and it's all quite accessible nowadays with great screen readers and apps that are, have to be accessible and stuff like that. So, so I lead some small groups online. We switched to online from in person, and it's sort of branched out into other things, like you said, the book club, and just various and sundry other activities so that I participate in.
Yeah, you do a lot. Okay, I am going to, what we thought we would do, this doesn't have to be a presentation. I just would rather just ask you a whole bunch of questions. Yes. And these are questions, and I just want to just recognize and acknowledge that you represent Debbie. So you are not here representing all people who have any kind of visual impairment. Mm-hmm. However, your voice does carry I think some wisdom around your experiences, and there certainly might be examples throughout other people's experiences. So we obviously are just going to learn how Debbie deals with all things, but I hope that it will connect back to other people we might know and connect with who have visual impairments. So just to acknowledge, we're just learning about the world of Debbie, but I am excited. So here's some of my initial questions as we talk about kind of being accessible online. We've spent years and years talking about accessibility in physical places. I think COVID has reminded us about online accessibility. So one thing I've always wondered is you and I write emails to each other or texts, and specifically with an email, what I wondered was with your readers or the way that you hear the email, does I write in exclamation marks, and sometimes there's 5 of them. And then, or I write in bold letters. And I wonder, is Debbie getting this any different than, does she get it with a louder voice on the e-reader? How does that work? So does it change? Would you know that I've used 5 exclamation marks? Does that make it more complicated to listen to? And so I guess it's just acknowledging that. And then lastly, I have a signature on my email that says Cara Milne, Impaired Planning, my website. Does that get tiring? Or do you just stop? Do you know that you've hit someone's signature? So those are my first questions.
Okay, your your bolding and stuff I wouldn't see, like that wouldn't kind of come through on my screen reader, like because I use all Apple products, so an iPad and an iPhone with the voice over the built-in screen reader. So bolding doesn't come in unless I kind of go word letter by letter, like you kind of can flip through letter by letter, but like I'm not obviously going to do that. It's very inefficient. So your exclamations might come through in that it would be like it might say like 5 exclamation marks. But that's all it would say that, like, or if like there's sometimes people like, and I do it too, you put star stars like asterisks or something,
right?
It'll be like many asterisks or 12 asterisks or however many there are. It'll often give the number if there's kind of more than 3. And so, and then signatures, I go like kind of, the way I can read an email generally is line by line. So you kind of flick through with your thumb as you read each line of an email. So I can skip the signature if I want to. So so that it's not really in fact, it's helpful because often signatures have the contact information, and then it's just really easy to like there's a rotor on, I don't know if sighted people use rotors or not, but there's a rotor on the when I read or do anything on with a screen reader, and I can set it up to find links. And so then I can easily click down to do a downward flick, and then it finds my the phone number or the email address or whatever. And then I can just double click on that and send reply or whatever to an email if that's what how I choose to reply.
Okay. Good to know. Okay, perfect. So with that, then I'm just imagining as we've head into all these Zoom meetings, and sometimes this was another question I wondered, when those initial Zoom meetings come out, they often came out with a large amount of text. So it's got the different phone numbers, it's got there's kind of a paragraph of information, and then the link is embedded in one of those things. I wondered, do you find that tiring to have to find the embedded Zoom link within all of that extra content about where you're calling from, or would you prefer someone just clicks and cuts and pastes just the actual link into your email? Does that matter to you?
Usually the link is first, so that's not too bad unless you get lost somewhere in the bottom of the email or like at the end. But that I know that was always fun. And I used to actually send Zoom links with all that crap attached myself. So, because I was too lazy to go through and get rid of it. So again, I can use the rotor to click to the link, and the link has a distinctive HTTPS, :/ and my, my voiceover will start reading that to me, like my screen reader. So often the less is better when you're talking about sending anything to a person who's visually impaired. Me specifically, probably I speak for myself, but I think others too, that I've heard, less is best. We don't need a picture. Emojis are fine. They're fine because your screen reader can read those, but less is better. So and I often put my Zoom invite at the bottom of my email, so that just because then it's easy to find, but it doesn't matter, but it's just, so being very specific, here is the Zoom link, and then putting it right then after that's always kind of helpful as well, because then you can kind of locate it quickly and easily, rather than having to read through the whole thing again.
Yeah, perfect. I guess I kind of guessed that, but then I was like, I actually don't know, and Debbie will tell me. So perfect. Okay, so let's say we've gotten now into the meeting, and whether it's book club like you and I have together, or if it's a meeting, and you come in, talk to me about having, let's say, not just 2 people, like you and I are having conversation. So that you're talking to me, but if you have 5 or 6 other people, and especially if you don't know them well and don't know their voice, do you wish that they would just say who they are right off the bat? Is that just not important to you? Can you just talk to me about how that community feels? what it feels like for you as a guest in a meeting with people that you don't know very well.
Okay. So oftentimes what I might do is if I'm usually late, so that's just a me thing. I will come into the meeting and there's already people there. So I may come in with my screen, my video off, and then I can go into the list of participants in the meeting and kind of scroll through them, like using voiceover. So then I'll know. I also can, Zoom did something so that I can't do this as easily anymore, but I can also do it via my keyboard and just kind of scroll through. Like there's a key combo for the, to see the participants, and then I can kind of arrow through and see who's there. So, and if kind of failing that, I don't have a problem asking, so can you let me know who's all here? And then, yeah, so, and then it's helpful if either one person just kind of says who's all there, and then that will give me an idea of who's there. And then I know. And I do always appreciate that.
Right. But I would think, and I think this is, I do believe that accessibility for one is actually helpful for everyone. So acknowledging that if I just had my name as Milne or C. Milne, that's not directly helpful if you're just trying to figure out which one Cara is. And there's a couple. So sometimes I know even I ask people to not just have like an initial or like that they actually have just a first name, as in almost like a name tag. Yeah. And so just because that's not just a visual impairment issue that I can't always figure out who is who either.
Yeah.
So no, that's good to know. Okay. And so having first names matters.
Yes.
Just in the simplicity of trying to just at least be able to do that independently.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
And then, so do you find, I guess I think you've kind of acknowledged that part of it is you just figure it out. But if we have a few Caras on the call and they're trying to overtalk each other, does that get to be a blur of who's discussing it? Or like, do you ever find that you're just like wanting people to slow down? Or do you find that's not so much an issue because you just are taking in the conversation as a whole?
Yeah, no, that's not really an issue because I imagine for a person who's hearing impaired, that might be a little bit more challenging if they're using, the captioning. But no, as a visually impaired person, I listen a lot. So for me, that's not, generally speaking, an issue. And I think it's really the same for blind people as sighted people, because I do a Zoom call once a week with a bunch of other blind people. It's also a book club. And we do the same thing where we're going, and do that whole start, stop thing that is I find it quite funny. But and so, you just really have to kind of deal with that. And that is not, for me, it's not an issue. I don't, it's a thing that happens.
Perfect. Can you get an icon when someone raises their hand to speak, or do you not see it? Like, does it not cue?
You know what? I can't tell when other people do it. I can do it myself. And the other thing is on Zoom now, it does get a bit distracting. I can actually put my cursor, like I can kind of tab through all the options on the screen, like mute and video on or off and all that sort of thing. And I can tab to a spot that will tell me who's talking. Like I usually put it on not gallery view, the opposite of gallery view. And I can see who's talking, but that can also get a bit distracting if more than one person is talking. It's not always accurate, but I can use that. Sometimes if I am not sure who's talking, I kind of tab to that spot and then just go, so it's okay. So, So, and sorry, I kind of lost track of the original question.
No, you answered the question, which is just, it's just, it's not ever, it's just about an awareness, right? If I am trying to include all the people in my meeting in the best way possible, am I aware of the small things that would make it easier? You and I have talked about the chat function and the poll function. So do you want to just talk about the chat function first?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. kind of, and again, like myself and other visually impaired people do find chat is really distracting when you're using a screen reader. So I often, if I'm in a seminar or webinar or whatever, I will disable the chat because it just, my screen reader is reading that to me, and then kind of people are talking underneath, and usually the screen reader is louder. So I can't hear. So often, like when people kind of send each other helpful things in the chat, for me, it's not always helpful because then I'll miss the next three things that are being said. Unlike a sighted person who can just quickly like read it and keep on going, or I guess you guys can keep it somewhere where you can see it or something. I mean, I know I can do that too. But if I'm doing the chat, I'm not listening to what's being said because, or I'm not hearing everything that's being said. So I really have to balance which one I want to pick. Kind of if I'm going to use the chat, it has to be fairly quick. And also, like, if people direct message me, and this may be helpful for you, anyone who's in a meeting with a blind or visually impaired person, if you direct message them just to let them know something, they may not answer you because it's just too, again, with the distracting thing. Like, they may thank you for the reminder or the message or whatever you just said. But if I'm going to keep up with the conversation, I can't answer you right now. Maybe some people are better at it than me, but for me, it's not. Like, I generally just go, yeah, got it, thanks, or whatever.
So what you're saying is when we're watching church together online and I'm messaging you personally saying, did you read our book? What did you think? Because we're not paying attention to the sermon. That is not helpful to you. That's what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Which I don't do, but...
No.
But if I was to, I would not do it. Got it. I think that's super interesting. And so what I want to just take to the next, just acknowledging, is then that makes me think that if we were in the space together, and let's say I wanted to give you a resource of a book or a website, and you were like, can you just send me that info? Sending it in the chat's not helpful, but if I just quickly put it in a separate email and said, here's the information from our meeting today, and just listed those copy and pasted items separately, then you'd be actually able to get it at a time that made sense for you rather than counterbalancing what was actually happening in the minute. And so it's recognizing that it's one thing to have it in the chat, but that chat then should be copied and pasted and sent back to you at another time so you can actually access it. Because if you, especially, that's really good to know. And I think something we can just do, right? Most of the time.
Yeah, like if there's a link or a couple books or authors or like all that kind of info that comes up that people just fire into the chat. Yeah, that is often not quickly and easily accessible.
Okay, perfect. And then the poll. If someone does a poll, a question poll.
Yeah. So if you have, my recommendation would be if you have a blind person in your group or more than one blind visually impaired, give a little extra time on those polls because I very rarely can get to those on time. Like you have to find the pop-up screen on your screen. Like, and then take the time to figure out yes, no, and if you clicked it or not. And usually by the time I've found the pop-up screen, the poll's gone. So they are a little bit more challenging than the typical. They just create a problem. So, and I have a lot of FOMO, so I hate this. It's like, I wanted my vote in.
And they need your vote in is actually what matters, is they actually need your voice. So as we kind of come to the end first, just acknowledging that, I agree that there's also so many different types of technology. Can you just, I don't know how briefly that you can just share what you use, that if let's say someone's listening to this who is visually impaired, and looking for what's working best. Can you just share the technology that you use? Like, you have a ear set in right now, right? So you're listening to me?
No, I actually have it on just my speaker. I'm not using it right now. Yeah. Okay. I can though. I often don't though. Like, I generally speaking just keep it like, because I'm often in my basement in a quiet space.
Right.
So, yeah. So I use an iPad, and I have a Bluetooth keyboard that I use so that I can kind of, use the key codes and stuff like that. It is more limited on an iPad, and I don't have any experience using Zoom on a computer or with other like screen readers or magnification software. So that is also efficient. Like on a Windows computer, using JAWS is often like a lot. I know other people use that as well. So there's another screen reader that's really big. But anyways, I generally speaking use my iPad with VoiceOver because that's what I've kind of got right now. And then I also have done Zoom calls on my iPhone, but it's a little bit different, and it's not my favorite thing to do. So I generally speaking use my iPad and and I have VoiceOver on, and that's how I do it with my Bluetooth keyboard. So.
And if someone wanted to look into different resources, or even what you're talking about, would it be like a place like the CNIB that would actually be able to help them? Or is there somewhere else that you'd say, no, go to this area, this will help you with technology?
I would go to the CNIB Foundation. Another like place to go is CELA, which I always forget the acronym, but it's the Center for Equitable Library Accessibility there. And so they also have books in some human narrated, some, synthetic or Braille, or they've got quite a few resources on how to use different technologies and things like that. So like the other day, I had to learn some stuff about OneDrive. So I got OneDrive for Dummies, and it's not human narrated audio, but it's, synthetic audio. And so it's like an ebook basically that's accessible. So there's lots of different places. I can't, and I don't know about in the US where people would go. So
that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. It's just the beginning. I just wanted us to just have a quick conversation about this. Yeah. And I think, super helpful. And I guess what I'd say is even if a few people can do things a little bit different, it does make a big difference overall. Mm-hmm. And it's about learning and making mistakes and learning. But I just want to say thank you. Debbie is an amazing mom and wife and friend, but she's also an amazing reader. And if you were also lucky to be in her book club, because she's picked some good ones. Debbie, I appreciate you. And you were exactly who I thought we needed to begin this conversation around accessibility online. So thank you so much for your time. And as always, it's just good to see you.
Thanks, Cara. Good talking with you.